So let's talk about this climate change thing. Not about climate change, but about religious reaction to it. Because apparently, according to a new survey from the Public Religion Research Institute, when it comes to concerns about climate change, what percentage, I want you to think about this, what percentage of various religious groups believe climate change is a crisis? I mean, the correct answer should be 100%. It is not. But I want you to think about what various religions would say about that question. What percent would say climate change is a crisis? And here is what PRRI, the polling group, here's what they found in a survey they posted. When it came to all Americans, you're looking at the blue dots here. That's the recent stuff. When it comes to all Americans, 27% of Americans say climate change is a crisis. And obviously, that is way too low and we're all screwed. I know. But that's the baseline, right? Now, check this out. If I scroll down a little bit, among religiously unaffiliated people, this is all of us, I presume, it's the highest among any religious group we are looking at. 43% of religiously unaffiliated people say climate change is a crisis. And that is up from 33% about a decade ago. So good, we're moving up. Good that it's higher because the crisis is more pressing than it has ever been. Also, 43% is ridiculously low. I also blame that on, it's not atheists and agnostics. It's that larger group of, I don't believe in organized religion, but maybe there's something out there. And also horoscopes are cool. All the Gwyneth Paltrow type of people, that's who's dragging us down. So that's religiously unaffiliated for you. But look what happens when here's the question for you. White evangelical Christians. Where are they on this list? White evangelical Christians. Because you know it's low. But how low is it? Let's find out. There we go, right there. 8%. I can't point. I don't know where I'm pointing anymore. It's 8% of white evangelical Protestants. And that's down from 13% a decade ago. They were already at the bottom of the barrel, and they somehow found a way to get even lower. Sorry. Like, how disappointing is that? Only 8% of white evangelical Christians think the climate change is actually a crisis. That is disturbing. That is disappointing. That is absolutely what I pretty much would have predicted. And before I talk about that, let me show you one other thing. When it talks about like man's contribution to the climate crisis, I was looking for the number specifically for atheists, and the PRRI survey that I just showed you did not have it. But the Pew Research Center did have a survey about this a while ago. And this is the number they got. Like, how many people say the earth is getting warmer mostly because of human activity? And this is the far left column you were looking at. Check it out for atheists right here. 90% of atheists say mankind is contributing to the climate crisis. 78% of agnostics, 56% of the Gwyneth Paltrow crowd. So just to give you these ideas, like most atheists accept the climate crisis and we understand humans' role in contributing to the problem. And yet on the flip side of that, only 8% of white evangelicals accept that. So why is that happening? I mean, the only groups, by the way, that accept the climate change crisis for what it is more than average Americans are us, the religiously unaffiliated, Jews, and Hispanic Catholics, which is very specific for some reason. I guess the one silver lining to all this is from a religion news service. While white evangelicals have become less willing to consider climate change a crisis, there are significantly fewer of them because organized religion is becoming less and less popular. So we got that going for us. The problem, though, is that ever-shrinking percentage of conservative Christians, they still have an outsized authority in our politics, just like with Ryan Walters in Oklahoma. So, and the Republican Party, as you all know, is full of right-wing Jesus lovers who ignore or downplay the threat of the crisis. They will hold snowballs in Congress to pretend that climate change isn't real. And here's the thing, their spiritual leaders are no better. Like in 2007, the Southern Baptist Convention passed a resolution that was skeptical about evidence for anthropogenic climate change, and they opposed to anything that interfered with economic development. And I'm going to show you this video here. This is about a minute and a half long. It's from a preacher named John MacArthur. And if you don't know John MacArthur, he is very fundamentalist Christian dude. He is one of those pastors who just pretended like COVID didn't happen, wanted to meet in person, no masks, that sort of thing. And in 2008, he gave a sermon about climate change. I'm going to play it for you, and then we will talk about it, because if you have not heard this, watch how he dismisses climate change as a problem, okay? All right, it's a minute 17. Here you go.
God intended us to use this planet, to fill this planet for the benefit of man. Never was intended to be a permanent planet. It is a disposable planet. Christians ought to know that. Yes. I say get all the pearls you can, dig up all the diamonds you can, get all the natural resources you can, the replenishable resources, natural gas and oil and everything that God has put in this planet. It's this absolutely staggering little piece that's floating around in infinite space. I am not responsible for the earth. And I feel a lot better about knowing that. I'm not responsible for it. Other than to do everything I can within my power to extract out of it all that is good for which I can give God glory and help folks. God's in charge of the planet. He knows what to do. He knows when He wants to drown it. He knows when He wants to curse it. He knows when He wants to restore it. And He knows when He wants to destroy it. And it's all in His hands. So in the meantime, enjoy it. Certainly as a Christian, enjoy it.
That is some scary, scary shit. Basically, yeah, if you want to dig up fossil fuels, go for it. If you want to take advantage of the planet, don't worry about it. It's here for us. We could do whatever we want with it. God gave it to us. The weird thing is, you could absolutely make a Christian argument that God gave us the planet, so it's our responsibility to be good stewards of the environment and to take care of the planet that God gave us. But John MacArthur doesn't do any of that stuff. He's like, yeah, just ruin it. It doesn't matter. We're going to be in heaven anyway later. By the way, he's not alone here. Ken Ham, the creationist who runs Ark Encounter in the Creation Museum, he says the only kind of climate change we need to worry about is going to hell. There's Robert Jeffress, who used to be a very pro-Trump mega cultist preacher. He's still doing it. He has argued that rainbows are God's way of reminding us, quote, that the polar ice caps are not going to melt and flood the world again. That's not how rainbows work. Like, there are so many ways you could cite prominent Christian leaders just downplaying or ignoring the climate crisis. Then obviously you get to the elected Republicans who say things like God will fix the environment because if there's a real problem, He'll take care of it, or that God will always give us time to solve the problem, or that we should stop paying attention to environmental concerns because God promised He wouldn't destroy the world again. Like, they will just do all sorts of damage because they truly believe they're going to get raptured, they're going to go to heaven, everything will be fine, the earth is temporary. And for those of us who live on planet one in reality, and we recognize that the idea of the pale blue dot, that this is the only home we have, it is our responsibility to take care of it because there's nowhere else for any of us to go. And yet we are, even if we're not outnumbered, we are outpowered by people who do not care about this stuff and are utterly irresponsible in how they talk about it. And I should say, there are a small percentage of very vocal, very thoughtful, white evangelicals who accept climate change and are doing everything in their power to try to change the culture and get people to take this seriously. But as with any culture war issue in white evangelical churches, those vocal minorities get nowhere. No one takes them that seriously. They are not changing minds by and large. So, we talk about science denying white evangelicals, and I just want all of you, if your idea of evangelicals denying science is limited to things like evolution or the Big Bang and things like that, I'm saying don't neglect the fact that they are just as ignorant when it comes to the climate crisis. They are more than willing to let this world burn because they have no intention of being part of any world that burns in the afterlife. And those of us who know that's not an option have to deal with these people, and we have to somehow work with them, or we have to get the power that they currently have because we don't have it right now.